What is up, family? We have another Patreon request. We got PT's hidden meaning. Of course, I didn't know what PT meant, so I had to look it up. It means a playable teaser. I didn't know that. Did you guys know that? Okay, anyway. So it's this is a playable teaser from that what looked to be a sick game, Silent Hill. I don't know. That's all I know about it. I really don't know anything else.
So the thing that makes talking about PT tricky is, well, it's Kojima himself. If you're not into video games, or specifically Metal Gear or Silent Hill, you're probably wondering what this video is going to be about. So
Yes.
to be quick, Kojima likes playing games with his audience. He's canceled his Metal Gear Solid series many times, tricked people into thinking Metal Gear Solid 2 featured a different playable protagonist than it actually did, and he even wore a mask and pretended to be the head of Moby Dick Studio, who made a game called The Phantom Pain, which ended up being the fifth Metal Gear Solid. Because of this, Kojima fans have a habit of going overboard when analyzing his games and statements in an attempt to understand them or scry some hidden message. And I'm allowed to say that because I'm one of those people. My original video for how to solve PT was, at least in part, an exercise in insanity that turned out to not even be right. Though it did lead to people shouting Jareth at their TVs, so maybe it was worth it.
Jareth!
That's two.
Jareth!
Turn to the left.
Jareth!
Turn. No, the other way.
Jareth! Jareth! Jareth!
I don't see her, do you?
Jareth! Oh, my controller rumbled!
All right, don't
controller
move, don't
rumbled!
move.
Jareth! 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 Jareth!
This kind of nuttery isn't entirely our fault. Kojima practically encourages overwrought analysis of his
I didn't
works,
get that.
but that doesn't excuse the volume of theories regarding Kojima's work that I can only describe as intense, nor does it excuse the absurdity of those theories, both of which give me pause when deciding to make a video like this. I mean, no matter how much research is backing my theory or how much sense it makes on its face, I'm still rubbing elbows with gonzo shit like this. Look, I wouldn't be making this video if I didn't think it was at least somewhat based in reality and interesting to think about. I believe I met those requirements.
Message?
So, here we go. I don't think PT was a teaser for Silent Hills.
Oh.
Let's get a few things out of the way. One, many people worked on all of the games Kojima has made, and I do not intend to put him on a pedestal like he's the only one who matters. All of Kojima Productions, both past and present, deserve recognition for the time and energy spent on Kojima's various ayahuasca vision quests. 2. I will mention certain Konami staff by name here, but this is not an invitation to harass them. 3. Konami, please don't sue me. Recently, during Giant Bomb's E3 2019 coverage, former Kojima Productions member Ryan Payton explained his thoughts on Kojima's upcoming game, Death Stranding.
Here's like something that shouldn't be too much of a surprise. Like Hideo, when he works on games, it's very autobiographical, and clearly,
That makes sense now.
clearly the Konami separation experience was not a pleasant one. So I think that he's going to. It's clear. I think there's a lot of metaphor in what's going on. I see it a little differently because having worked there.
Yeah.
Is that I don't know if you remember it, but it has Norman Reedus and he's got handcuffs and then they're broken and there's a baby and
Norman's in this game? Walking Dead Norman?
and he's naked.
Yeah.
And it's Hideo. There's like naked snake. This was his baby Metal Gear, and then it's taken away from him. It disappears,
Ooh.
and he's got like the handcuffs are off, and he's looking off in the future, and there's this kind of creepy horizon, and to me it was completely autobiographical.
This actually makes a lot of sense. Even Kojima has said that the Metal Gear Solid games are largely him working through his relationship with his father, who passed away when Kojima was 13. So it shouldn't be much of a surprise that Kojima's work can be autobiographical at times, or that Death Stranding is possibly
Oh yeah, that's him.
just a giant metaphor for his breakup with Konami. Put another way, if Kojima were a musician, Death Stranding might be seen as a breakup album. I'd posit even the name Death Stranding, which is when sea creatures beach themselves and die for unknown reasons, is directly referencing Konami management's willingness to kill off Kojima Productions for seemingly no good reason. There's a lot more to say about Death Stranding, but what if we examine PT knowing Kojima's penchant for autobiography? Something that a lot of people have already picked up on is that the finale to PT is seemingly directed at Konami. The dad being referenced can be seen as Konami itself, while the person speaking can be viewed as Kojima. This is a favored theory among fans, who have made a habit of replacing the dad in the sequence for Konami. Konami was such a drag, etc. But if we follow this idea through, that Kojima was really saying these things about Konami, remember that PT came out 5 years ago in August of 2014. Kojima's last day at Konami was October 9th, 2015. And he started his new company, an independent Kojima Productions, on December 2015. So ending PT by saying, but then one day he goes and kills us all, Kojima was predicting Konami would disband Kojima Productions a year before it actually happened. Of course, someone in a high position at Konami as Kojima would have known this. After all, who knows Kojima's contract better than Kojima himself? But it seems like he hid this information in PT via metaphor. Was Kojima trying to tell us what was going to happen between him and Konami? And was that the only thing he hid in the game?
I miss so many good games. I'm really a... But this is PlayStation. But I bet you it's on PC. The amount of games I've missed. Ugh. Depressing.
About a year ago, game journalist Joel Couture,
Love playing games.
Pronouncing that right,
Love
released
playing
PT,
games.
A Video Game Ghost Story, an ebook detailing PT's release and aftermath. In it, Joel interviewed an anonymous source at Konami who had a lot to say about the company's falling out with Kojima. They tell the story of a Kojima Productions in early 2011, deep in the process of building a game engine for the next installment in the Metal Gear series. Kojima Productions had been working on the Fox engine and what came to be known as Metal Gear Solid 5 for many years. I think he had dumped like $100 million or some crazy amount building that engine in the game. Konami, understandably, wanted to use that engine for multiple things. More Metal Gear games, and I guess they're using it for Pro Evolution Soccer right now. From what I've heard, it's a really difficult engine to use. I think Kojima initially said that they were going to license this engine out so students could use it, kind of on the same level as Unreal. That didn't get followed up with anything because it was really tough to work on. But on June 14th, 2011, Konami released a mobile game called Dragon Collection. The game was a microtransaction-filled free-to-play gachapon produced by Hideki Hayakawa, an up-and-comer within the company. According to my own anonymous sources, around this time, Hayakawa approached Kojima about using Metal Gear's Solid Snake in Dragon Collection in some way. Kojima refused, and, according to Joel's source, took it a step further. Now, another thing that I heard was that Kojima was very condescending toward the mobile guys when they weren't proven successful yet. He was working on the next big thing, and they were working on a mobile game. And while this is all rumored, someone may have said something to Kojima, and he said something condescending back about their game. Regardless, Dragon Collection would go on to become a huge success for Konami. Fun fact, Hiroyuki Owaku, writer of Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 3, also worked on Dragon Collection as a producer. The development costs of the game were small, but more importantly, it made money hand over fist, supposedly generating something like $1 million a day. The money Dragon Collection was making compared to the development costs of the Fox engine and Metal Gear Solid 5 began to sow doubts about Kojima in Konami executives' minds, including that of Konami's chairman of the board and co-founder, Kagemasa Kazuki. In this situation, a lot of the higher-ups were thinking, this low-cost game is making millions of dollars a day, and we have Kojima's studio asking for millions and millions more to finish this game. Seeing it from the executives' point of view, this is crazy. They had built up 3 new studios, had suddenly gone from 1 studio in America to 3 or 4 on the West Coast alone, so they were just hemorrhaging money. So I think this whole thing with Kojima was at a boiling point already. Looking at archived news releases on Konami's site that have now been erased, we can track Hayakawa's meteoric rise within the company. On November 2nd, 2011, 5 months after Dragon Collection was released, Hayakawa was promoted to corporate officer. On October 31st, 2013, Konami announced that Hayakawa would be promoted to senior corporate officer. And on July 3rd, 2014, he was promoted to vice president of Konami Japan, replacing Hideo Kojima. July 3rd, 2014 is also the date the management structure at Konami was split between clearly executive and content officer roles. Hayakawa was put on the executive team, while Kojima was shifted to the content officer team. Hayakawa's promotions and the shifting of Kojima's role within the company clearly show how Kagemasa Kazuki and Konami's board of directors felt about Kojima's production philosophy versus Hayakawa's. And on April 1st, 2015, Hideki Hayakawa, the man who came to represent a mobile-first, bottom-line focused future, became the president of Konami. A month later, Hayakawa announced in an interview that Konami would be doubling down on the model that made Dragon Collection so profitable. "We will pursue mobile games aggressively. Our main platform will be mobiles. Following the pay-as-you-play model of games like Power Pro and Winning 11 with additional content, our games must move from selling things like items to selling things like features." The same month this was said, Silent Hills was officially canceled, and PT was removed from the PlayStation Store.
Wow.
Later that year, Kojima, the man who advocated for the old way of making video games at Konami, no longer worked for the company. But not before the release of Metal Gear Solid 5, which was criticized for featuring microtransactions and not being fully complete. When the gaming media caught wind that Kojima's name was being removed from Konami marketing materials in March of 2015, their proof that Kojima was really on his way out the door was a list of executive appointments on Konami's site. There, it was found that Kojima was no longer listed among executives at the company, and this was taken to mean that Kojima had been demoted, supposedly a first for the renowned producer. But in doing my own research, I found evidence that this wasn't the beginning of Kojima's long 2-year divorce with Konami. In the years leading up to PT, Kojima's name can be found among executive appointment announcements on Konami's archived site. The earliest of which was on March 17, 2009, where Kojima is listed as being promoted to Executive Corporate Officer. This position would remain unchanged for 2 years, when on March 30, 2011, he was promoted to Vice President of Konami. Again, 2 years would pass before Kojima would get another promotion, this time to Executive Vice President on March 18, 2013. These promotions happening every 2 years in March seems to indicate that Kojima was on a 2-year contract with Konami. But then something strange happened. On October 31st, 2013, Kojima was demoted to Senior Corporate Officer, a huge step down from his previous role as EVP of Konami, and not on schedule with his previous title changes. This might mean that his contract was renegotiated from the one made earlier that year. Considering Dragon Collection had proven to be a considerable moneymaker for more than a year by this point, and Hideki Hayakawa was promoted to Senior Corporate Officer the same day Kojima got demoted, we can guess why Konami did this. But the thing that makes this strange is the timing. PT was released on August 12, 2014, and Kojima was demoted and his contract potentially renegotiated in October 2013. That means Kojima was demoted 10 months before PT's release.
You got fired, so you drowned your sorrows in booze. She had to get a part-time job working the...
What the hell? Damn, I missed some good games.
grocery store cash register. Only reason she could earn a wage at all is the manager liked how she looked in a skirt. You remember, right? Exactly 10 months back.
Around the time that Kojima first announced PT, Gamescom 2014, what I was told was that Konami had said not to show it at Gamescom. They had told him not to show it, and the main reason for that was that Konami didn't have the whole contract lined up. Kojima, being the tail that wagged the dog, did it anyway. There might be a reason he was so adamant about showing it at Gamescom even though it wasn't supposed to be shown there. Maybe there was a special reason. You never know with Kojima, right? There may have been a specific date or another reason offering some meta-level clues. A month following PT's release, Guillermo del Toro did a short video talking about his involvement in the Silent Hills project, noting that there was an initial version of PT that was quite different from the one that was released.
To collaborate with a master storyteller like Kojima was irresistible. We talked for concepts, we talked about tools, we talked about many things in his headquarters in Tokyo, and then he sent me the first version of the playable teaser, which was very different than what you played now. I saw it, loved it, and commented so. And then time passed and we continued exchanging ideas, and then came the version of the playable teaser that you saw now.
Cross-referencing this with Kojima's various interviews and tweets reveals a rough idea of PT's development timeline. On September 27, 2012, Kojima announced that he'd be making a new Silent Hill project, saying, "In the past, I've mentioned Silent Hill in interviews, and as a result of that, the president of Konami rung me up and said he'd like me to make the next Silent Hill." On April 29, 2013, Kojima voiced his interest in having Norman Reedus play a part in a new game. Then, on June 10th, 2013, Kojima tweeted about having met with Guillermo del Toro, and a month later, on July 20th, he posted a photo of him and Norman Reedus.
There he
Based
is.
on these tweets, it seems likely that production on a Silent Hills teaser was in full swing by July 2013. The prototype teaser that Guillermo mentioned in his interview, which was later shown at TGS 2014, was probably sent to him mid-2013.
What?
How do I know this? In the final version of PT, there are two overt references to the
This game looks
1938
sick.
War of the Worlds radio broadcast from 75 years ago. But by 2014, the time PT was released, that infamous broadcast was 76 years old. Why keep this seemingly inaccurate reference in the final version of the game? I propose that this was done to point out the original intended release date of the Silent Hills teaser, October 30th, 2013, which was meant to coincide with the War of the Worlds radio broadcast as well as Halloween. After all, what better time to release your horror game? But, as we found out earlier, this would be the month that Kojima would get fired or demoted, throwing his plans into disarray. Anonymous sources at Konami have said that Kojima's firing had to do with him spending too much money without making it back. So imagine being a Konami executive, already frustrated with Kojima's antics and reckless spending, getting the news that not only is he not finished with the Fox engine or Metal Gear Solid 5, but now he wants to start what will likely be years of development on a new Silent Hill game that will involve a big-name film director and star an incredibly popular actor who will almost certainly cost a massive amount of money. It's really not hard to see an exec at least pumping the brakes on Silent Hills, or at most, being entirely fed up with Kojima's disregard for Konami's bottom line and convincing the board of directors that he needs to go. Why? Because there's this new guy named Hayakawa who's
Making
making us an
mobile games.
insane amount of money with his Dragon Collection game.
Yeah.
And he says that he can keep doing it with other mobile games. Look, we've already spent all this money on Metal Gear Solid 5 and the Fox engine, and we have yet to make our money back on it. So let's give Kojima 2 years to finish MGS5. Our final contract with him will end October 9th, 2015, but we'll make him sign a 2-month-long non-compete, so his contract won't officially end until December. If the press asks where he is during the non-compete, we'll just say he's on vacation. And let's make sure that MGS5 has microtransactions, because all those profitable mobile games have those. Oh, and Silent Hills? I don't want to hear anything more about it. Exactly 10 months back from PT's release date was October 12th, 2013. Based on his Twitter, Kojima at that time was in America visiting his LA studio. If I'm right, at some point that day, he got a phone call from Konami HQ in Japan.
Phone's ringing, but it's off the hook already. Interesting. Interesting. What happened? Did I hit pause? That's weird. Maybe I did.
Imagine being Kojima at this point. The company you've given your life to for 27 years just informed you that you have 2 years to wrap up what you're working on and get out. That
That's more or less how it works with big business. You're just a number.
annoying dude who kept saying mobile's the future, he just got promoted and will replace you as vice president. It's very likely you were forced to sign an NDA, aka a non-disclosure agreement, so you can't talk to anyone about this as to not affect your former employer's bottom line. Plus, you're going to lose all rights to the game series you helmed for 26 years. And the
Hell
game
no.
engine you've poured all your hopes and dreams into for 5 years will no longer be yours.
That's
It's going to be
bullshit.
used to make pale imitations of Metal Gear and soccer games. I'd be pissed. Months later, Kojima would meet Nicholas Winding Refn, the director of the movies Drive and The Neon Demon, and the two became fast friends. The first time Kojima met with Nicholas on Twitter is March 11th, 2014, saying the two talked over creation. The tweet ends with an emphatic fist and features Kojima and Nicholas posing as if they were preparing to do battle. When Ground Zeroes released a week after that tweet, on March 18th, 2014, things between Kojima and Konami seemed fine to the outside observer. But with the benefit of hindsight, we can look back on this game and notice some oddities. On the mission Deja Vu, which was a PlayStation exclusive mission and one giant trip down Metal Gear Solid memory lane, certain tasks you're meant to complete have taken on a different meaning. Like when you're supposed to use a blue light attached to your gun to erase logos of real Metal Gear games, and not the various fake Metal Gear games that are strewn about. At a certain point, Kaz will say,
You might be able to erase the markings, but the memories will never disappear.
a hint at what would happen almost exactly a year later when Kojima's name was erased from Metal Gear Solid 5 marketing materials. And after you erase all the logos to real Metal Gear games, Kaz says,
You did it. You erased erased all the markings, but every one of them will always be with you. You seem to be a fan of Hideo Kojima games.
That last part's interesting, considering that Psycho Mantis' original line that's being referenced here was,
I see that you enjoy Konami games.
Also during this mission, you can find a Kojima Productions logo without the Fox in it for both the main and LA studios, hinting that there would be a point in the future where Kojima Productions would lose the Fox engine, the Metal Gear franchise, or both. 3 months later, on June 12, 2014, Kojima was interviewed by Time, who asked him why he came back to the series when he said he'd stopped making Metal Gear Solid games after MGS4. Kojima responded by saying he originally wanted his younger staff to helm MGS5, but numbered MGS games turned out to be too big for them. He ended his answer by saying, and this time, I'll say it again, this is the last one. Not the last Metal Gear, but the last one I'll work on. But Kojima wasn't going out without a fight. At some point before or around this time, Kojima realized his staff had already done all this work on a teaser for Silent Hills back when it was actually going to happen. The concept trailer was neat, and it was an absolute shame it would never come to pass. But what if he could tweak it to create a small, unrelated game with a hidden message? A gauntlet of absurd puzzles with a trailer for his unfairly canceled Silent Hills project at the end. After all, as long as his staff kept the secret, none of the execs actually played video games, so they wouldn't beat it and shut it down prematurely. Besides, once people found the trailer, the cat's out of the bag. Kojima could get his Sony contacts to silently put this new game on the PlayStation Store and announce it at Gamescom 2014. But what about the other people outside Konami who were involved with the Silent Hills project? After all, Kojima didn't have any of their contracts finalized. He'd have to meet with them to let them in on what he was planning, and gain a little confidence along the way. July 22nd, 2014, had reunion with one of my Soul Warriors, Nicholas Winding Refn, who visited our LA studio. Now I'm fully charged. July 24th, 2014, reunion with my another Soul Warrior, Guillermo del Toro. Had soul fight and hug. I feel I'm charged. July 24th, 2014, had reunion with one of my Soul Warriors, Norman Reedus. It's been for half a year. I feel I'm charged. This game Kojima Productions was making was no longer a teaser for Silent Hills. The previous version was, absolutely, but not this new one. This new one was Kojima publicly shaming Hideki Hayakawa, Kagemasa Kazuki, and the rest of Konami's executives for a long list of huge mistakes he felt they were making, up to and including firing him. It was autobiographical, but shrouded in metaphor, with one of the only ways of deciphering it being through its references to specific dates. PT was more than a great little horror game. It was an extremely creative way of getting around an NDA.
Yes, and getting revenge.
One of the reasons I like this theory so much is because it doesn't just explain bits or pieces of the game. All of a sudden, everything about PT comes into focus in a way that it never has before. From the cryptic lines to the colored flashlights, all these things that were once mysterious have newfound meaning. Take, for example, Lisa. What was once PT's de facto YouTube thumbnail, Lisa can now be interpreted as the Fox engine itself. Killed by Konami, potentially her husband in PT, through their limited vision of gaming's future and the ousting of Kojima. Lisa is shown resurrected and pregnant, meaning Konami still wanted to use the Fox engine to create more games after they fired the people that made it.
There's a lot of metaphors in this teaser.
Sync Fetus's monologue hints at this.
She had to get a part-time job working a grocery store cash register. Only reason she could earn a wage at all is the manager liked how she looked in a skirt.
This seems to say the only reason Konami executives wanted to use the engine was because they liked how it looked, a reference to its graphical quality and rendering capabilities, despite how difficult it was to use. The working a grocery store cash register line may reference microtransaction-heavy games it could be used for, or other games that weren't utilizing the full potential of the engine. The Sync Fetus could also be seen as representing the Silent Hills project itself, a game for the Fox engine that wasn't allowed to come to full term. 204863 represents Kojima, being that the 24th of August 1963 is Kojima's birthday. With this number's inclusion in PT, Kojima seems to be saying that Konami executives, or possibly Kagemasa Kazuki specifically, became enraged by Kojima, largely due to him spending all of Konami's money on the Fox engine, Metal Gear Solid 5, and other ventures while not being profitable, and that they were driven to destroy Kojima Productions because of Kojima. This is all mirrored in PT, where a father is driven to murder his family because of the the number he kept hearing over the radio, 204-863.
Several days before the murders, neighbors say they heard the father repeating a sequence of numbers in a loud voice. They said it was like he was chanting some strange spell.
In fact, the first time you hear 204-863 in the game, it's said on the radio by a voice urging the listener to give in to paranoia.
You can't trust the tap water. Look behind you. I said, look behind you. 204-863.
As if to say Kagemasa was paranoid about Kojima taking all the credit for his company. The reason I'm singling out Kagemasa Kazuki is because another anonymous source at Konami sent some emails to YouTuber Super Bunny Hop and said,
Kagemasa Kazuki, the CEO of Konami, hates Kojima. Some say that Kagemasa has just gone batshit crazy and doesn't care much about the company anymore.
Forbes has also gone on record and said, the first thing you need to understand about Konami is that it is a family business. Kagemasa Kazuki co-founded the company back in 1969, with the "ko" of Konami coming from his surname, in case you didn't know. Kagemasa is the chairman, while his son, Takuya Kazuki, is president. The board of directors has Kazuki's nephew and son-in-law with seats, and fully 4 out of the 7 internal directors of the company are part of the Kazuki clan in some form or another. So the likes of Hideo Kojima was already somewhat of an outsider to that arrangement. He's also been very adept at handling PR, and subsequently creating a great man myth about himself. And then there's this. Was Kojima telling us how he felt when he was let go by Konami? When he was given 2 years to finish MGS5, all he could do was move forward. But then he saw his replacement as VP and member of the board, Hideki Hayakawa. He couldn't just let them get away with this. He had to fight back. He was Hideo Kojima after all. No one could replace him. And that separate reality? That was the one where Silent Hills actually came to be, the game the trailer at the end of PT is for. Another message was only one Konami employees would understand. The Konami you knew is gone. Now, they monitor everything you do. They even have special police that will report you to higher-ups if you do something they don't like. You can stay at Konami and live this way.
Just watched a movie like that. Wait a minute.
You knew is gone. Now, they monitor
I knew I hit the wrong key.
everything you do. They even have special police that will report you to higher-ups if you do something they don't like. You can stay at Konami and live this way, or you can become one of us, the people who will be leaving with Kojima to form a new Kojima Productions. This is all reflected in the Swedish broadcast.
Nå, vad väljer du? Du kan välja. Ditt liv. Din framtid. Klok som du är, så kanske du redan upptäckte. Ja, radiodramat från 75 år sedan var sanning. De är här på vården. Och de övervakar och ser allt. Lita ej på mig. Lita ej på polisen. De är redan kontrollerade av dem. Så har det varit i 75 år nu. Endast vår mästare kan hålla honom. Du har en rätt. En rätt att bli en av oss. Så välkommen till vår värld.
Welcome to his company, basically.
Mycket snart öppnas portarna till
A new dimension will open very soon.
en ny dimension. 204863. 204863.
These aliens, or others, being referenced here might not make sense until you take into account what Kojima would later say after debuting his independent Kojima Productions in December of 2015. Even if the Earth were stripped of life and reduced to a barren wasteland, our imagination and desire to create would survive. Beyond survival, it would provide hope that flowers may one day bloom again. Through the invention of play, one new evolution awaits. Kojima Productions. We are Homo Ludens. We are those who play. Those others that have invaded, those are the people who don't play, the executives at Konami and people who worship the bottom line. That anonymous Konami employee from earlier in this video mentioned this. A lot of the executives spend their whole lives learning business and accounting to the point where they don't really play games themselves. A lot of the businessmen who are taking over at Konami, they don't even know the Konami characters. There's also this. Knowing you, I was sure you'd notice this game and play it. I will never, can never, forget that day 20 years ago. Because of the 75 years ago line, we can infer that the events in PT take place in 2013, the 75th anniversary of the War of the Worlds radio broadcast. 20 years before 2013 was 1993. I was in Kobe, and it was 1993 when the precursor to Kojima Productions, Kaihatsu Gobu, was formed. The original PlayStation was released the next year, and I remember it well because the section had just been formed. Even the colored flashlights that appear randomly during PT's final loop can now be seen as Kojima telling us what he was planning to do after he left Konami. The red, yellow, blue, and green lights are the same colors used in the original Sony PlayStation.
Oh my goodness.
Logo. He was going.
Talk about telling an entire story from a teaser. I don't even know how long the teaser is. 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes max. I don't even know how long the gameplay is in that teaser, but he managed to tell his whole story.
To use his contacts at Sony to partner with them and start his own independent studio. After all, both PT and the Deja Vu mission in Ground Zeroes were PlayStation exclusives.
And all
I always wondered why exactly Konami made the decisions they did after PT's release. Why did they lock Hideo Kojima in a room away from his staff for the development of MGS5? Why was every decision he made micromanaged by Konami execs? Why was PT scrubbed so unceremoniously from PSN? And why have the news articles Konami keeps on their site been scrubbed of everything before 2014? Now, it all makes sense. Kojima was putting hidden messages in his games to bypass his NDA and tell the world what Konami and Kagemasa Kazuki were up to. He had effectively outplayed everyone at Konami, and PT represented Kojima burning his bridge with his former employer. Konami couldn't risk him doing any further damage to their brand. They had to lock him down and get rid of the evidence. So, happy birthday, PT. It took 5 years, but I think we finally got you mostly figured out. If I've missed anything or you want to add to this theory, please leave a comment.
The only issue is you need a lot of smart people to decipher all your codes and hints and word plays to be like, oh, wait a minute, is he talking about, oh, look at that. It just happens to be exactly the time where he started the company. Oh, this is where he got fired on the date, the year, the time.
Love to hear it.
You got to have some smart people. You know, so many detectives out there now. It's crazy. I tell you, it's amazing that nobody can figure out a crime anymore. At this point, they should just be like, listen, social media, here's the crime. We can't figure it out. Yes, it's the FBI, the CIA. We're all lost. We don't know what to do. Dude, it'll just a community will figure it out. They will. They'll figure it out. Like backrooms. Like, you remember that first photo? Everybody went crazy. Where did that backrooms photo come from? You had the community go insane until eventually somebody said, I got it. I figured it out. I know where it came from. It's these type of people that are so damn smart that could really figure out a lot of question marks we all have in life, in the world, and things that have happened that no one could understand or make sense of. Just get this community here that could break down a PT and go, aha, I got the whole story. I figured it out. You got to be smart. You can't just, you got to be smart.
And if all this info was hidden in PT, I can only imagine what's going to be in Death Stranding. Kojima's soul warriors from PT's development are going to be in the game after all. And it seems to be way more overt with its metaphors. I mean, the main character, Sam Bridges, works for a company named Bridges. Must be a coincidence that Hideo Kojima also works for a company with his name on it. Right? Yeah. Must be.
Must be. Good video, man. Smart. Smart. So I don't know when this was actually created, but so did Silent Hill. Did it ever come out? What happened? Maybe not on the PlayStation, but I don't know. Man. I think I played Silent Hill 1 on the PlayStation. On the PlayStation. I think that's the last time I even remember anything about Silent Hill. Anyway, really good stuff. Good information. The teaser looks sick. I'm not going to lie. There you go. PT, player teaser. Never knew it existed. Well, of course. Well, no, I really didn't. Again, it's been that long. It's been that long. I wonder what it's like to, put 10, 15, 20 hours into a game and actually finish it and be like, that was a kick-ass game. I really had a lot of fun doing that. Something called time, people. Time. There's just not enough of it. I tell you, if I had one wish, it would be, can one day be 48 hours? That's all I ask for. One day, 48 hours. That's it. You know how much more crap we could get done? Anyway, PT's Hidden Meaning. What'd you think of it? I don't know. I think it's cool as hell. But you guys actually probably played the game and understood it way more than me, and I'm still fascinated by it. You guys must be like, well, you probably already knew about it. You probably like, oh yeah, we know all about that teaser. Yeah, it's about his whole life and what went down with his employment at Konami. Yeah, we know about all. Okay. Well, now I know. I'm just catching up to you people. Take care. Peace out. Have a good night.